If you've ever stayed in a relationship long after the love stopped feeling like love, then listen closely because the next 15 seconds might hit harder than anything you've heard this year. Imagine standing in a room full of people you've known for years, people who think they understand your marriage, your life, your loyalty, only to have the one person you trust most shove you away like you don't even belong to your own story. That moment, it became the spark that burned my entire past down and rebuilt me from the inside out. And before I take you into the truth of what happened, do me one thing. Drop a listening in the comments or tell me where you're watching from. It helps this story reach someone who needs it, and trust me, someone out there does. Now, here's how everything unraveled. My name is Nora Hale, I'm 34, and this is the night I finally stopped choosing someone who never chose me back. The Phoenix Ridge Tech Gala was supposed to be glamorous, soft, jazz humming through speakers, champagne towers glimmering under chandelier light, and people pretending corporate success made them interesting. The Hyatt Ballroom was filled with nearly 400 employees, partners plus ones, including me, standing in heels I regretted 5 minutes after arriving. But more than anything, I was there for one reason. My husband, Evan Hale, age 37, senior analyst at Crimson Point Systems. Or, that's who I thought he was. I spotted him across the room, surrounded by co-workers in suits sharp enough to cut glass. Evan looked different than usual. New watch, expensive haircut, navy suit tailored to perfection. He'd been changing for months, but tonight the difference glowed neon. I walked toward him with the kind of nervous hope only a spouse understands. The quiet desire for a simple touch. A photo together, a reminder we were still a team. I reached for his arm, barely brushing his sleeve, and he jolted like I'd electrocuted him. Then, loud enough to turn heads, he hissed, "Don't touch me." The room stalled. Conversations thinned. Glasses paused midair. Heat rushed up my neck, and I laughed softly as if I had misunderstood, but everyone heard. Everyone saw. I stepped back, swallowing the sting like it was my fault for wanting affection from my own husband. Standing beside him was Colby Ward, age 35, his coworker, too close. Too entertained by my humiliation, his smile flickering with something that didn't belong in a moment like that. I didn't understand then, but something in my chest tightened. A whisper of danger I hadn't learned to trust yet. That shove didn't break my heart. It cracked open the silence I had been carrying for years. Moments later, Evan's younger sister Marla, age 32, slid next to me with a pity-soaked half-smile. "Rough night?" she asked. My answering smile was razor-thin. "Last one," I said. And for the first time in my life, the words felt final. I drifted to the balcony, the San Diego night cold enough to bite bare skin. The city. Lights blurred below the Hyatt like 1,000 scattered secrets. Inside, through the glass, I saw Evan and Colby laughing, too closely, too comfortably, as if the moment with me had already evaporated from his mind. The distance between us suddenly felt measurable, and it stretched miles. I didn't storm out. I stayed long enough to understand the truth in the way. Evan checked his phone every few minutes, how he turned his back to the room when he typed, how his smile softened in ways it never did with me. The gala kept spinning around us, but a thread inside me quietly began to unravel. Later at home in our townhouse in Mission Valley, the silence felt staged. Evan muttered something about being exhausted and went straight to the bathroom. I froze when I heard the lock click. He had never locked any door in this house. I stared at that door long enough for suspicion to seep through the cracks in my denial. In the bedroom, his dress shirt lay on the chair. Under the bright overhead light, I saw it, shimmering faint gold dust near the collar. Not mine, not from anything I owned. My stomach dropped. I picked up his gym bag to toss in laundry, and something hard hit my hand. A phone, sleek, silver, not his. No passcode. A choice that felt like arrogance, not innocence. I opened it. Messages glowed across the screen. Room 742 again? Same time. Need you tonight? Don't let anyone find out. I didn't cry. Didn't scream. Didn't break. I simply exhaled, slow, steady, the way someone breathes when they finally see the monster standing in full light. The next day I met Sophie. a friend from Evan's department for coffee in Little Italy. I danced around the truth, but she saw right through me. And when I asked if Evan had been acting different lately, she slipped. Colby has a lot of influence on him, she said quietly. Too quietly. I watched her expression twist like she'd said something. She'd promised someone she wouldn't reveal. My pulse tightened. Something was wrong. Something was big. That night I stood on our balcony, overlooking the I-8 traffic buzzing like static. I held that silver phone in my hand like a detonator. I didn't know where the truth would lead me, but I knew I wasn't walking back into ignorance. A few days later, Sophie called again, this time asking me to drive with her to Sunset Crest Overlook, a quiet hill with a full view of San Diego's coastline. When we parked overlooking the sprawling city lights, she didn't even look at me when she began to speak. They're close, Nora, too close. My breath hitched. Evan and Colby? She nodded, tears barely clinging to her lashes. People at Crimson Point notice. They disappear together. They leave early. Stay late. They have chemistry. She almost choked on the last word. The night air cut through me like glass. The betrayal wasn't the part that crushed me. It was the months I had spent blaming myself for a distance he had built intentionally. When I got home, my phone rang. Marla. Her voice was calm, rehearsed. Evan needs space, she said. You should give him room to grow. You've been holding him back. Her tone was condescending, as if she had been handed lines from Evan himself. And when I responded that I wasn't the one pulling away, she exhaled sharply, annoyed. Colby is helping him rise in his career. Don't get in the way. That was the moment I knew they all knew. They'd watched me unravel without saying a word. That night, on the burner phone I didn't ask to find, a new message appeared. Last night was perfect. Friday? My heart hollowed. Evan wasn't slipping. He was replacing, and he wasn't doing it alone. The next morning, I drove to Eric Maddox, a private investigator in Hillcrest. He listened carefully, then leaned back. If what you're describing is real, this won't take long. His calmness terrified me more than the situation. 3 days later, he called. Come in. My hands shook the whole drive. In his office, Eric slid a thick envelope across the desk. Inside, photos, Evan and Colby entering the Pacific Crest Hotel together, shoulders brushing, laughing, casual intimacy dripping from every moment. In one photo, Colby's hand rested on Evan's lower back. I felt my heartbeat in my teeth. Then Eric handed me a USB. On the laptop screen, footage showed them leaving the hotel the next morning. Evan wearing Colby's shirt. My throat closed. It didn't matter what explanation Evan might invent. The truth was louder. When I went home that night, everything felt staged again. The clean counters, folded laundry, candles lit. A home occupied by someone living a double life. On his desk drawer, tucked behind files, was an envelope filled with hotel receipts. Months. Same room. Same hotel. Same pattern. Not a mistake, a system. I didn't confront him. Not yet. Instead, I called Sophie, voice trembling with a steady anger. Tell me the truth, I said. And she did. She said Evan told her not to get involved. Told her if she warned me, he'd cut her out. She apologized over and over. But the hurt wasn't her doing. It was Evan's strategy. A calculated, deliberate attempt to isolate me. That night, standing in the middle of our living room, surrounded by framed photos of trips and anniversaries that now felt like props, I realized something painful and liberating at the same time. Evan had already built a life beyond our marriage, financially, emotionally, romantically, and he didn't intend for me to survive the fallout intact. That was the moment something inside me hardened into resolve. I wasn't going to collapse. I was going to rise, louder, smarter, and stronger than his lies. And I would make sure he never saw me coming. The night I decided to change everything, San Diego felt louder than usual, waves smashing against the harbor walls, traffic rushing through Mission, Valley like the world was moving too fast for someone whose life had just shattered. But while heartbreak slows some people down, mine sharpened me. It turned my breathing into strategy, my silence into fire. I wasn't the woman Evan could dismiss anymore. I was the woman he never saw coming. I spent the next week pretending normalcy while building an escape plan with the precision of someone who had finally awakened from years of emotional sleepwalking. Every morning I brewed coffee, packed my work bag, kissed him on the cheek just like always. Except this time, every gesture had intent behind it. He didn't realize the version of me he betrayed wasn't the version standing in front of him anymore. Meanwhile, the USB and the investigator's photos stayed hidden in my purse, burning like coals every time I thought about them. And trust me, it was constant. 3 days later, Evan came home late, 11:42 p.m., shirt wrinkled, breath tinged with something sharp and unfamiliar. "Long day?" he muttered. I stared at him, almost curious how someone could lie that easily. "Where were you?" I asked quietly, not confrontational, more like someone gathering data. He blinked, momentarily thrown off. "Worked late with Colby." His voice didn't shake. That almost hurt more than the betrayal itself. He had become good at lying. Comfortable in it, skilled. "I see," I said, turning away so he wouldn't see the rage flickering in my eyes. He didn't ask how my day was. He didn't touch me. He didn't even glance at the dinner I'd meticulously set out, for the sake of consistency. He simply walked past me into the shower, humming. That was the moment. I learned that when someone stops loving you, they become unaffected by the pain they cause you. That night, after he fell asleep, I sat in the living room with every light off except the warm glow of a single lamp. The house felt like a museum of lies. Every photo frame on the wall, every gift exchanged, every memory built, replicas of a life that only I had been living. I opened my laptop and began drafting a document, one that would become my foundation. A timeline, dates, receipts, the burner phone logs, hotel check-ins, photos, messages, behavior changes, deposits missing from our joint accounts, calls he never explained, Colby's involvement, everything. And with each line typed, the love I once carried shriveled into something colder, something stronger, something strategic. I wasn't going to lash out. I wasn't going to cry in front of him. I was going to dismantle the web he built, quietly, powerfully, and legally. The next morning, I scheduled a meeting with a divorce attorney in La Jolla, attorney Vanessa Quinn, age 39, sharp, direct, known for precision and absolute loyalty to her clients. I walked into her office with a folder so thick she laughed softly. "I think I'm gonna like you," she said, flipping through the first few documents. "You did most of my work for me." "I'm not here to destroy him," I said quietly. "I'm here to free myself." Vanessa's smile sharpened. "You can do both." That sentence stayed with me more than anything in the days to come. She explained the process, the strategy, the financial protections I needed, the accounts to secure, the assets to separate, the evidence to preserve. She also made something clear. Infidelity may not always blow up a case, but secrecy, financial misconduct, lying, that changes everything. And Evan had done exactly that. The next few weeks were a balancing act, living with a man who didn't love me while building a future where his absence would be the best thing that ever happened to me. I noticed everything now. Every time he smiled at a text. Every time he adjusted his appearance before going to work. Every late night. Every lie told with a casualness that once would have broken me, but now only fueled me. One night, while he was in the shower, I heard his secondary phone buzz in the drawer he thought I didn't know about. Another message from Colby. Friday night. Same place. "Can't wait!" My breath didn't even hitch this time. There's a strange beauty in the moment betrayal. Stops hurting, it means you've healed. Far more than the betrayer ever expected you to. By the time Friday arrived, my plan was ready. And I wasn't going alone. Sophie had decided she'd been silent long enough. "I'm done protecting him," she said, gripping the steering wheel as she drove us to the Pacific Crest. "Hotel. He doesn't deserve your loyalty." When we reached the parking lot, I felt nothing. No panic, no heartbreak, no jealousy. Only closure. Just past midnight, Evan and Colby walked into the hotel lobby. Evan's hand brushed Colby's arm, laughing, unaware of the storm building only feet away. I didn't approach them. I didn't expose myself. I simply recorded the moment, time-stamped, documented, saved. Evidence wasn't revenge, it was freedom. When I got home, I didn't sleep. Instead, I drafted a letter, simple, measured, final. Evan, I know everything. The details don't matter anymore. What matters is that I'm done. By the time you read this, the papers will be filed. You are free. And so am I. The next morning at 7:14 a.m., I set the letter on the kitchen counter and left for Vanessa's office with every piece of documentation neatly ordered. That was the first time I felt air in my lungs that wasn't weighed down by confusion or dread. It was clean. It was mine. At exactly 10:03 a.m., the divorce filing was submitted. It was official. My past was no longer my prison. When I returned home, Evan was already there. His face was pale, hands trembling as he held the letter. Nora, please, let's talk. His voice cracked. Hesitation, guilt, fear, maybe even regret. But none of those emotions belonged to me anymore. There's nothing to talk about, I said, my tone steadier than I ever expected. You left this marriage long before I did. His eyes filled with panic. It wasn't what you think. Colby and I were... I don't care, I said gently, and shock crossed his face. Whatever you did, whoever you did it with, however long it's been, it's not my burden anymore. He stepped closer. Please, Nora, let me explain. Explain what? I asked softly. Why you humiliated me in front of hundreds of people. Why you led a double life. Why you kept secrets from your own wife. Why everyone else knew more about my marriage than I did. Silence. Heavy, suffocating silence. He dropped his gaze. I made a mistake. No, I said. You made a choice. His breath shuddered. I didn't want to lose you. I felt a strange, quiet sadness, not for him, but for the version of myself who would have believed that line years ago. You lost me the moment you stopped respecting me. He didn't speak again. He didn't have to. The truth was already in the room, filling every corner like smoke after a fire. I packed a single suitcase. My essentials. My documents. My dignity. As I walked toward the door, Evan whispered, Where will you go? I turned to him, finally seeing him not as my husband, but as a lesson. Forward, I said. I'm going forward, and I meant it. I moved into a small but beautiful apartment in East Village, overlooking the city lights. At night, I'd stand on the balcony, watching cars streak across the freeway like timelines racing toward new beginnings. I felt lighter, stronger, reborn. Sophie visited often, bringing wine and ridiculous jokes to fill the new space with laughter instead of memories. You're glowing, she said one night. Freedom looks good on you. And for the first time in years, I believed it. A month later, I received an email notification. My divorce was finalized. No drama, no courtroom breakdowns, no screaming. Just closure, clean and complete. And as I held that document in my hands, I realized something profound. I didn't lose a marriage. I reclaimed myself. I reclaimed the woman who deserved loyalty, honesty, respect, and love that didn't require begging for scraps. And now, if you're listening to this story on YouTube, let me speak directly to you. Don't let anyone convince you that staying through disrespect makes you strong. Walking away from what breaks you, that's where real strength begins. If this story hit your heart even a little, tap the like button so it reaches someone trapped in silence. Drop a comment if you've ever rebuilt your life after betrayal. I promise someone else needs to hear your courage. And share this story with anyone who forgot their worth. Because healing isn't meant to be done alone. Today, I'm not the woman Evan tried to dim. I'm the woman he accidentally set free. And if you're ready for your own rebirth, remember this: you don't need permission, just the courage to begin.